I say at one point in the war in the West that the argument, for instance, on reparations now that goes on, and is not a fringe argument anymore. Some people say, "Oh, you're pulling up this fringe argument." It really isn't. I mean, every contender for the Democratic nomination for the presidency in 2020 was willing to talk about the possibility of reparations. Some very eager that this country, America, goes through that entirely self-destructive exercise. I say that there's a lot of problems with this, but if I could refine it down to one thing, I'd say this. It's no longer about a wealth transfer from one group of people who did something wrong to another group of people who were wronged. It could have been that 200 years ago. Today, it's not even the descendants of people who did something wrong giving money to people who were the descendants of people who were wronged. It's a wealth transfer from people who look like people who did a wrong thing in the past to another group of people who resemble people who were wronged. That's impossible to do. I'm completely clear about this. There is no way in which you could organize such a wealth transfer on moral or practical reasons. America is filled with people who are have the same skin color as us, for instance, who have no connection to the slave trade and should not be made to pay money to people who have some connection. And then the country is also filled with ethnic minorities who have come after slavery, who would not be due for any reimbursement, as it were. The problem with this is that I'm perfectly open to the possibility that there are residual inequities that exist in American life, and that the consequences of slavery could be one of the factors that resulted from this. The thing is, I don't think it's a single issue answer. I think it's a multidimensional issue. Something like black underachievement in America is obviously a multidimensional issue. Much of the left and others wish to say it's not. It's only about racism. And they can't answer why Asians who've arrived more recently don't, for instance, get held down by white supremacy. But actually, I say white supremacy in quotes, obviously, but don't get held back by it, but actually flourish to the extent that Asian Americans have a higher household earnings and higher household mean equity than home equity and so on than white Americans. So I don't think that on the merits the evidence is there that racism is the explanation for ongoing black underachievement in some segments of the black community in America. It's obviously a part of it. Could you say that even those things like fatherlessness and similar family breakdown issues are a long-term consequence of it? Possibly, but it's being awfully generous to people's ability to make bad decisions. For instance, how many generations after the Holocaust would you allow people to claim that everything that went wrong in the Jewish community was as a result of the Holocaust? I mean, is there some kind of term limit on this? I would have thought so. And I think most people probably think that's over.